You know that feeling when you think a story is finally over, only to discover it's just beginning? That's exactly what's happening with the Markle family saga right now. While most of us assumed Samantha Markle's legal challenges had run their course, recent developments suggest we may have been celebrating too early. The relationship between Meghan Markle and her half-sister Samantha has been anything but simple. What started as private family tensions exploded into public view following Meghan's marriage to Prince Harry and her subsequent interviews about her family background. Now, months after initial court decisions seemed to close the book on defamation claims,
I don't think she's capable of empathy, remorse, or shame. I don't think she could feel enough to apologize.
new legal strategies are emerging that could reshape this entire narrative. Understanding what's really happening requires looking beyond the headlines. The legal system doesn't move in straight lines, and appeals processes often uncover complexities that weren't apparent in initial proceedings. What we're witnessing isn't just another celebrity family dispute. It's a case study in how modern media, legal strategy, and personal relationships intersect in ways that can have far-reaching consequences.
In my opinion, she would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
The foundation of this conflict lies in statements Meghan made during her widely watched Oprah interview and the Netflix documentary series that followed. These weren't casual conversations between friends. They were carefully produced media events that reached millions of viewers worldwide. When you have that kind of platform and audience, every word carries weight, and the legal implications can be significant. From a legal perspective, defamation cases involving public figures face unique challenges. The courts must balance freedom of speech with protection from false statements that cause genuine harm. This balancing act becomes even more complex when family relationships are involved, because the line between personal opinion and potentially damaging factual claims can be surprisingly thin. What many people don't realize is how differently appeals courts approach these cases compared to initial trial proceedings.
Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample.
While lower courts often focus on whether claims meet basic legal thresholds, appeals courts can re-examine fundamental questions about how laws should be interpreted and applied. This broader perspective creates opportunities for legal teams to present arguments that weren't possible in earlier stages. The strategic evolution in Samantha's legal approach reflects this deeper understanding of appellate processes. Rather than simply arguing that lower courts made mistakes, her legal team appears to be presenting entirely new frameworks for understanding the case.
She said, I lost my father. We knew that she didn't lose our dad, she iced our father.
They're questioning whether traditional defamation protections adequately address situations where celebrities use major media platforms to make statements about private individuals. Consider the power dynamics at play here. When someone with Meghan's global profile makes statements about family members, the reach and impact extend far beyond typical family disputes. Social media amplification, international news coverage, and the passionate engagement of fan communities can transform personal comments into phenomena that affect real people's daily lives in measurable ways. The Netflix documentary series adds another layer of complexity to this situation. Unlike a live interview, documentary production involves months of planning, filming, editing, and post-production review. This extended timeline raises questions about intentionality and deliberation that might not apply to more spontaneous public statements. Legal experts often pay close attention to these production timelines when evaluating potential defamation claims. Documentation has become a crucial element in modern defamation cases, especially those involving online harassment and social media dynamics. The digital age creates permanent records of interactions, threats, and coordinated campaigns that previous generations of legal cases couldn't access. When someone claims that public statements led to harassment, they can now present comprehensive evidence showing patterns and connections. The harassment documentation aspect of this case highlights something many people overlook about celebrity statements and their consequences. When public figures make comments about private individuals, they're not just sharing opinions, they're potentially directing massive audiences toward specific targets.
I thought, is she not contextually aware? She's trying to hide something. This is really sloppy pool.
The recipients of this attention don't have equal platforms to respond or defend themselves. Law enforcement records, social media screenshots, and documented threats create a paper trail that appeals courts can examine in ways that weren't possible when the original case was filed. This evolving evidence landscape is one reason why legal strategies can shift significantly during appeals processes. New information doesn't just support existing arguments, it can fundamentally change how courts understand the entire situation. The procedural aspects of appeals often confuse people who aren't familiar with legal processes. When a case gets dismissed, it doesn't necessarily mean the underlying claims were without merit. Sometimes dismissals happen because of technicalities, timing issues, or procedural requirements that can be addressed in subsequent filings. Understanding these distinctions is crucial for anyone trying to follow complex litigation.
And I don't think they're improving each other's lives. I think it's a toxic relationship because they're codependent.
Appeals courts have more flexibility than trial courts in certain areas, particularly when it comes to reinterpreting legal standards and considering new evidence. This flexibility creates opportunities for creative legal strategies that might not be available in initial proceedings. Experienced appeals attorneys know how to frame arguments in ways that give judges room to reconsider previous decisions. The intersection of celebrity culture and legal accountability raises fascinating questions about how our legal system adapts to modern communication realities. Traditional defamation law developed in an era of newspapers and radio, not global streaming platforms and social media amplification. Courts are still figuring out how to apply established legal principles to unprecedented communication scenarios. Family defamation cases present unique challenges because they involve relationships with complex histories and emotional components that pure business or political defamation cases don't have.
Tell you why. What she told the royal family, what she told Harry, wouldn't have jived, wouldn't have been consistent with the
Judges must consider whether family members should be held to different standards when discussing each other publicly, especially when those discussions occur on major media platforms. The global reach of modern media platforms creates jurisdictional complexities that didn't exist in earlier eras of defamation law. When statements made in California reach audiences in multiple countries through streaming services, determining appropriate legal venues and applicable standards becomes a sophisticated legal puzzle. These complexities can create opportunities for strategic legal maneuvering. Public relations considerations often influence how celebrities and their legal teams approach defamation cases.
royal physician was not allowed to examine her womb. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but if I were pregnant with a royal child, you would want that child in the best care of the best medical practitioners that money could buy.
The decision to fight, settle, or ignore potential claims involves calculations about reputational impact, financial costs, and long-term strategic interests that extend far beyond the immediate legal issues. These broader considerations can sometimes conflict with pure legal strategy. The documentary evidence from the Netflix series creates what legal experts call a, quote, contemporaneous record of statements and their context. Unlike live interviews where context might be disputed, produced documentaries provide detailed records of what was said, how it was presented, and what editorial choices were made. This kind of evidence can be particularly powerful in appeals proceedings.
So all of the pictures, my point is, out there were inconsistent with the idea of a real pregnancy.
Professional reputation damage in the digital age extends far beyond traditional economic losses. When someone becomes the target of sustained online negative attention, the impacts can affect employment opportunities, personal relationships, and psychological well-being in ways that are difficult to quantify but very real. Modern defamation cases increasingly recognize these broader categories of harm. The royal family's position in all this adds constitutional and diplomatic dimensions that most celebrity defamation cases don't involve. When statements about family members potentially reflect on or involve royal protocols, international relationships, and constitutional questions, the stakes extend beyond personal disputes into matters of state interest. Appeals processes can take months or years to resolve, during which time all parties remain under public scrutiny.
He has personality profile that perfectly enables someone who is an alleged narcissist.
This extended timeline affects not just legal strategies, but also career decisions, business relationships, and personal well-being for everyone involved. The uncertainty itself becomes a factor that influences how people approach the entire situation. Legal precedent from high-profile defamation cases affects how similar disputes are handled in the future. Courts pay attention to how their decisions might impact freedom of speech, family privacy, celebrity accountability, and media practices more broadly. This awareness of broader implications often influences judicial decision-making in significant cases. The financial aspects of major defamation litigation extend beyond potential damage awards. Legal fees, opportunity costs, and business impact can create pressures that influence settlement discussions and strategic decisions. Sometimes the process costs become more significant than potential outcomes, which affects how all parties approach negotiations.
If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is.
Social media dynamics have created new categories of evidence and new types of harm that legal systems are still learning to address. The speed and scale of online reactions to celebrity statements create unprecedented situations where traditional legal frameworks may need updating to address modern realities effectively. Expert testimony in defamation cases increasingly includes specialists in digital communications, social media analysis, and psychological impact assessment. These experts help courts understand technical aspects of how online campaigns develop and what their effects are on individuals who become targets of coordinated negative attention. The appeals court system exists specifically to provide opportunities for legal reconsideration when new arguments, evidence, or interpretations might change outcomes.
You're pregnant, there's not a pillow under your skirt, and there's live footage of her walking towards camera with her abdomen swaying left to right in a black and white checkered dress.
This system recognizes that initial decisions aren't always final answers, especially in complex cases involving evolving legal standards and unprecedented factual situations. Media coverage of ongoing litigation can influence public perception in ways that affect all parties involved, regardless of eventual legal outcomes. The court of public opinion operates by different rules than legal courts, and the intersection between these two forums creates additional layers of complexity for everyone involved in high-profile disputes. International implications of celebrity defamation cases reflect the global nature of modern media and entertainment industries. When statements cross borders through streaming platforms and international news coverage, the reputational and legal consequences can span multiple countries and legal systems simultaneously. The evolution of this case demonstrates how legal strategies can develop over time, as attorneys gain deeper understanding of factual situations and as new evidence becomes available. What seems like a concluded matter can transform into something entirely different when viewed through fresh legal perspectives and supported by additional documentation. Professional relationships in the entertainment industry often depend on reputation and public perception in ways that make defamation concerns particularly significant. When celebrity brands are built on authenticity and trustworthiness, legal challenges to those qualities can have business consequences that extend far beyond immediate legal cost or damage awards. The procedural complexity of appeals processes serves important purposes in ensuring that legal decisions receive appropriate scrutiny, and that new evidence or arguments can be considered when circumstances warrant reconsideration. This complexity sometimes confuses observers, but it reflects the legal system's commitment to thorough analysis. Understanding the full scope of modern defamation cases requires recognizing how digital communication, global media reach, and celebrity culture create situations that previous generations of legal precedent may not adequately address. Courts are essentially writing new rules for how established legal principles apply to unprecedented communication scenarios. The psychological impact of sustained legal disputes affects everyone involved, including family members, legal teams, and even public audiences who become invested in outcomes. These human costs are often overlooked in legal analysis, but they represent real consequences that extend beyond formal court proceedings. As this case continues to develop, it will likely contribute to evolving legal standards for how defamation law applies to celebrity family disputes in the digital age. The precedents established here may influence how similar cases are handled in the future, making the current proceedings significant beyond their immediate participants. The intersection of personal relationships, public platforms, and legal accountability creates scenarios that require careful balancing of competing interests. Freedom of speech, family privacy, individual protection from harm, and public interest all factor into how these disputes are resolved. What we're witnessing is essentially the legal system adapting to modern communication realities while trying to preserve fundamental principles of speech protection and individual rights. This adaptation process is necessarily complex and sometimes produces unexpected results as courts work through unprecedented situations. The outcome of this case, whatever it may be, will likely provide insights into how legal systems can address the unique challenges created when personal disputes involving public figures play out on global media platforms. These insights will inform how similar situations are handled in the future. The story continues to evolve as appeals processes move forward, new evidence is considered, and legal strategies adapt to changing circumstances. For those following the case, patience is required as legal systems work through complex procedural and substantive issues that don't resolve quickly or simply. Whether you support one side or another in this dispute, the case raises important questions about responsibility, accountability, and the consequences of public statements in our interconnected digital world. These questions don't have easy answers, but they're conversations worth having as we navigate the intersection of technology, celebrity culture, and legal responsibility. The legal system's handling of this case will contribute to our understanding of how traditional principles apply to modern scenarios, and how personal disputes can become matters of broader public interest when they involve individuals with significant platforms and influence. What makes this situation particularly compelling is how it combines elements of family dynamics, legal strategy, media production, social media culture, and celebrity accountability in ways that create a complex web of issues without simple solutions. The resolution, when it comes, will likely satisfy some observers while disappointing others. The broader implications extend beyond the immediate parties to questions about how we balance free speech with protection from harm, how we handle family disputes in public forums, and how legal systems adapt to technological and cultural changes that create new types of conflicts and new categories of evidence. As we continue following this story, it's worth remembering that legal processes serve important purposes in providing structured forums for resolving disputes, even when those processes are complex, lengthy, and sometimes difficult to follow. The alternative, letting conflicts play out entirely in media and public opinion, would likely produce less satisfactory results for everyone involved. The case reminds us that behind legal procedures and strategic maneuvering are real people dealing with real consequences of public disputes that have taken on lives of their own. Whatever the ultimate resolution, the human costs of extended legal battles and public controversy affect everyone involved in ways that extend far beyond formal court proceedings.